To all of you. Speaking in a Malayalam university, but I don't know which Malayalam. My Malayalam, we try to learn Malayalam through Malayalam film. As a college student, we used to watch some of the Malayalam films. There used to be a theatre in Chennai. Exclusively on Sundays they put Malayalam films. So the earliest Malayalam films influenced our politics also. First film was Tulavaram. So we were slowly drawing towards leftist ideas and the suffering of the poor, a worker who's suffering. These are the themes which came from Malayalam. Then the naked and the communist acting. So we actually became communist also. But then Malayalam language is so attractive for us. We try to learn, and most of the leaders in Tamil Nadu, especially from the left side, all came from Malabar. So in some way we were connected with Malabar. Malabar was part of the British India, and therefore whatever we try to learn, we can't speak like you. Therefore let me speak only in English, and then I can answer some questions. When they asked me what you want to speak, I said everybody speaks about several things, but then this is a language university. Let me speak about constitution and language. Though it's not a very difficult issue, but then in some way it is organically linked to your life. Constitution, what has got constitution to do with language? This question always comes in. And then, you know, Mohanlal, they say all it, and Mohanlal became so famous. Last 3 months, whenever our Prime Minister speaks about Mohandas Gandhi, he says Mohanlal Gandhi. So it has become so confusing. When I became a judge, they issue an appointment order which is called warrant of appointment. The warrant of appointment will be in 2 languages, English and Hindi. So Abdul Kalam appointed me as a judge. The warrant will be on English. On the Hindi side, how to pronounce Chandru they have no idea because there is a phonetic difference between Hindi and Tamil. So they will write to you, please write your name in Devanagari script and send it to us. So we say our name. We don't know much of Hindi, and then we ask some Hindi scholars, some Hindi teachers to write your name in Hindi, and then the warrant will be issued both in English and Tamil. The idea was the name from South, when translated into Hindi, it can mean something different. So you have 2 different appointment orders. They don't want that to happen. They get your name. Somehow we keep referring to Hindi for some reason. Many people think that Hindi is most important, and therefore we should learn Hindi. You have an all India approach or Hindi. This was the issue which keeps on coming, not only today. In fact, you have seen JD film. Prakash Raj goes to investigate a crime where the jewelleries were pledged with a Marwadi, who's a Jain Marwadi. Most of the pawn shops in Tamil Nadu are owned by them. So he goes and tells where are the stolen jewellery. Till then he was speaking in Tamil, because all the Marwadis knows Tamil also, because they are doing business. When Prakash Raj comes as the inspector comes and he goes to investigate, he suddenly switches over to Hindi. So there is a dialogue. Actually the dialogue was never written by the director. Prakash Raj on the spot told him, speaking Tamil, Hindi Theriyadu Poda. So this is there in Hindi Tamil version. And then there was so much controversy that there is an official language of India, Hindi, and this film says Hindi Theriyadu Poda. Then there are so many banians. Today there are fashion, everybody has a banian, Hindi Theriyadu Poda. The banian was selling very hot sale. The banians make no sense because people who wear it, they may not know what is actually written there. And why I am saying this is very important. In Tamil Nadu, also everywhere, people wear banian of Che Guevara. I don't know. When we were in 1970s, we had a campaign for Cuba. Cuba was encircled by America, and there was a Bay of Pigs crisis was there. There was virtually a war between Russia and America for the encircling Cuba. America has put sanctions against a small country like Cuba, and Fidel Castro was the president of the Cuba. Che Guevara worked with him for the liberation of Cuba. After some time, he could not stay in the office, so he wrote a letter in the night and left for Bolivia, South America, and he was killed by the police. People say CIA hand was suspected. Now, when he was a slain hero, a man who left his office of a cabinet minister goes to some other place to continue the war of liberation, and he dies. So he became a very hero. In our days, we always used to say Che Guevara, but they never wore banyan because this culture of wearing a fashionable banyan did not arise those days. But today you see in Madras, every college student, every youth will wear Che Guevara. But not knowing, I used to ask them, you know who this man, who's this picture? No sir. He looks charismatic, so we want to wear. Because that Che Guevara cap became more a very fashionable symbol. And then we were wondering, we were brought into the politics by the anti-imperialist war all over. The Cuban issue, the Vietnam issue, the Korean issue. These are the international issues which we are brought in. Now you find suddenly everybody is wearing. Does it mean the ideas of anti-imperialism has gotten so much that people were... The very small test, Che Guevara's daughter, who's working in Cuba as a minister, she came to Chennai. She visited India. So there was a reception given to her by people because she was the daughter of a leader, just not the leader's daughter, but she also doing good work in Cuba. So there was a reception in Madras. We find only 150 people. The people who wear money are 200,000. And then there is man's daughter is here, only there. Therefore, there is a lot of difference between the fashionable ideas and the real political ideas. That is why this issue of language, when Prakash Raj made a statement, it became an all India controversy. You will be very surprised. The Hindi version does not contain that. So the people who make movies, they also know market. If it can be sold in Tamil Nadu, this dialect will be there. If it is sold in North India, this dialect will be removed. So there was also complaint to censor board. This dialect should go on. He explained by saying, till I entered the scene, he was speaking in Tamil. The moment I want to question him as an accused, he switched over language so that I may not know what he's saying. Therefore, I said that on the spur of the moment, he said that anyway, it became a slogan. Hindi I was not surprised because in 1965, as a school student, we were told, you know, if you read the constitution, there are only three provisions leading with language. One provision says, after the constitution came into force in 1950, 26 January, we are celebrating as a Republic Day. That is the day when the constitution started operating. There is a provision which says that English shall be the official language for 15 years. After 15 years, Hindi will be the official language. So from 1950 to 1965, 26 January, Hindi will become the official language. Now the politicians in Tamil Nadu, the Dravidian parties, Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, DMK, they started a campaign that after 1965, 26 January, you will become a second grade citizen in this country. We did not know, as a school student, we don't even know what is constitution. But somebody leaders speak in meeting after meeting. On 26 January 1965, you are a second grade citizen in this country. What is the use in saying all citizens are equal? Article 14 says all citizens are equal, and then they have a equality before law. When there is an equality clause, some other clause says so-and-so language will be the official language. What about Tamil? What about Malayalam? What about Telugu? What about Kannada? There can be language, but the official language will be there. Who decides the official language? This question. Tamil Nadu saw massive protests saying that this article should not be implemented because it will make other language people second grade citizens. Then there was a lot of agitation, and the school students, not even college students, school students participated in all over Tamil Nadu. We were also there. We went to jail, shouting slogans, and slogans were also against the Hindi. So there is a slight distinction. You are not opposed to a language, You are opposed to the imposition of a language. There is a difference between the two because every language is equal. It has got its own history, and Tamil and Malayalam has got more older history than Hindi. And therefore, but as a student, what we think, down Hindi, long live Tamil. This is what our student, because we have no understanding of a language. We were emotional. Most of the time, language brings emotive issues, not the rational issues. The rational issue is very clear. The India is a country of several federated units. It has got several languages. And Constitution 8th schedule talks about 8 languages as the language of India. Now it is 22 languages are there, and the language called Tulu does not have a script form. If you read the history, Kartapuran history, in Manipur, there is a big campaign to bring back original Manipuri language. Manipur is a northeastern state which was originally called Northeast Frontier Region. It was only part of a region. Later they realized each country, each state has got their own language, their own script and their own history. And therefore Manipur started a campaign, we want Manipuri language to be made. Manipuri is now part of the constitution. But what is important was, even though the language was Manipuri, it is written in Bengali. The script is Bengali. And therefore they said we should have a Manipuri script. Now this is very simple because how to invent the Manipuri script? That some teachers, some intellectuals have joined together. They have reconstructed from the old record. This is the script. Now they say not only Manipuri language, Manipuri script should be there. Do you have a language first, number one? Does the language have a script is number two? Suppose it doesn't have a script, what script you will adopt? Because very recently now people are saying to make India one, every script must become Devanagari script. Like my appointment order contains English and Devanagari script Hindi. Now Devanagari is a script which some languages adopt. Not every need not adopt. Each has got their own script. Now the script is important because Article 29 talks about that every person is entitled to conserve their language, script and the history behind. Now you have a right, you have a fundamental right to keep your language, keep your script, and therefore the Manipuri people are saying by the end of this year, everything should be switched over to Manipuri. Some people may say fanatism or language chauvinism. You may say all this. When English came here in the 16th century, they slowly started introducing English. English was not an original language. English was evolved over the period. In fact, till 16th century, English courts were speaking only French, and English was considered as a worker language, a gut language. Later, English replaced all this, and he was able to, because of their assimilation, they were able to have a bigger hold. Because of the territory they were controlling all over the world, where the sun never sets. That is the boasting English had. And the language also became very popular. Now, what is most important is, they started calling the local Indian language as a vernacular language. Very shortly, because the word vernacular in dictionary meaning, a local language. Yeah, England is a very small colony. Compared to England, we are some 50 times bigger. And we have some 20 languages which are much older than English. And now English calls us as local language. The English press is called English press, and the language press is called vernacular press. Even in our High Court, there is the English section and the vernacular section. I told the Chief Justice, it's a demeaning to call it the vernacular. We have a language, we have a pride, we have a history, we have a culture, and if you remove the language, then remove the culture, then nothing remains. We are just mechanical. And therefore, language became an issue the day England declared India was part of a British Empire. What was the language? English is the language. How many people know in India English? Hardly 1%. And therefore, when the independence struggle started, it was not a political independence alone, it was also for a cultural or a linguistic or several fields, socio-economic, every field there were attempts to bring back an alternative model. So the Congress party, which was created in the national movement, also discussed what should be the language of future India. As and when we get independence, what should be the language? There was divided opinion because there were no linguistic states. For example, Malabar was part of Madras Presidency. all the four South Indian languages in a common headquarters at Chennai. Therefore, Tamil became a dominant language because it was at the headquarters. The more you are closer to the headquarters, you also become powerful. And nobody likes Tamil. In fact, in Telugu and in Kannada, they call Tamil as Arava. Arava, another meaning is snake. They were so much contemptuous about Tamil. They call them Tamil as Aravas. So there are a lot of local politics, which should be there. There was one feeling, if one language becomes dominant, all other languages become subordinate. Therefore, every language should have an equal representation. Whereas Gandhi and that dominance, I will say Mohandas Gandhi, because our Prime Minister keep calling him as Mohanlal. Somebody must tell him he is Mohandas and Mohanlal. And now, when Gandhi, in his speech, he felt that Hindi-speaking people are in majority, and therefore naturally it will become the official language. The other languages can be there. So the formula which Congress party was evolved was a three-language formula: Hindi as an official language, English as a language of education, and your local language mother tongue will become the language for primary education. So the three-language formula was the predominant view in the pre-independent days. So when Constitution came, when they started writing the article, it became an issue that English will allow 15 years, and after 15 years, Hindi will become official language. So when Tamil Nadu agitation, which is unheard of, Kerala did not agitate, Karnataka did not agitate, Andhra did not agitate. Maybe they did not think on this line, but the propaganda in Tamil Nadu became so powerful. It even touched the students, not knowing the implications. Finally, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister at that time. He gave a statement in the Parliament: as long as the non-Hindi people accept Hindi as a language, English will continue to be the official. There is an assurance. There is no law. Constitution remains. That 15-year remains even today. Constitution is not amended. It was a statement made by a Prime Minister in the House that English will continue as long as non-Hindi people agree to have a change. Now, non-Hindi obviously include Malayalam, obviously include Kannada. But then the second question came within the pre-independent days: what should be the area in which, because English had a headquarters, Madras became headquarters, Calcutta became headquarters, Bombay became headquarters. So every place around the place is a province. It does not have any particular geographical province. Like you never had IK Canada. There was a Chandru princely state, Cochin princely state, Malabar British India. So we have three different regions. So this is a very incongruous. Therefore, within the Congress party, there were also writers, there were thinkers, there are people from all religions. Therefore, they said, in future India, language will be the basis for a state. No, it has got 1,000 problems, but nevertheless, they felt language is an important vehicle for communication, important vehicle for learning, and therefore, even within the Congress party, this decision was taken that in future India, we will have linguistic basis of state. So in 1956, there was a law made called States Reorganization Act. You reorganize a state. By the time Trivandrum, Cochin got merged, when Malabar region was added, it became IK Kerala. In 1956, for the first time, you got a continuous area called Malayali areas. You have a continuous area called Tamil, or a continuous area called Kannada, continuous area called Andhra Pradesh. Now this is after the constitution, two important developments took place. It was certain that language is going to be what is called a political unit of India. Now there was no problem because there was massive support. People were believed that language can take you further and the language should be preserved and the language should be continued. Now when this came in 1953, the Telugu speaking people who are part of Madras presidency, they said we want a Telugu separate state for Andhra Pradesh. So the Andhra Pradesh was formed 1953, even before the linguistic states were formed. In 1956, Hyderabad was annexed to India, Hyderabad state. So Hyderabad and Andhra Pradesh, coastal Andhra and Rayalaseema became a Telugu speaking area. Now, when language becomes an area of your unit of operation, two separate developments take place. What will be the official language of the state? There are different opinions. For example, when Karnataka was formed, some portion from Maharashtra was added to Karnataka. When Kerala was formed, it lost Sengota, it lost South Trivandrum, Kanyakumari district. It had some added areas in Idukki district. The Valli Periyar and several other districts have been made to come to Kerala. The idea was you must have a continuous area and people in majority revenue village should speak that language. So a commission was appointed by a Supreme Court judge and the commission decided this will be the area, that will be the area. But then Karnataka had some Maharashtra areas added. At that time, Dr. Ambedkar, who did not like this language area, he said it's a waste of money. But then the prevalent view was language is important and the aspirations of the people should be respected. That is why Article 29 gives guarantee to respect, you preserve your own language and your own script, and therefore there is a 29 is there. Now it's fine, we have a linguistic area, we have a right to preserve our language. Then what happens to medium of education? Medium of education schools. It was initially thought that there should be English and the local language, the English or the Malayalam, or English and Tamil. Now later, the Hindi became another issue. Then if you don't learn Hindi, you can't go to central service. This is a myth that was created. And therefore, there were three language formula, like in Kerala. But in Tamil Nadu, after DNK came to power, it was only two language formula. Either you have mother tongue and English. We have not learned Hindi. Hindi classes are closed. When I was in school, I was learning Hindi. But after the Hindi education, there was no Hindi at all. It's only you want to learn if you learn outside, not in the school. This became very incongruous. What should be the language formula? Should language be decided by the state or the central government will decide? Now central government says we should have a three-language formula. The new education policy of 1986 and the present policy by the Modi government talks about three-language formula. Whereas we have an education policy of our own, where only two languages are enough. Now even the present Modi government, starting from Congress days, they said primary education should be only in mother tongue. Now how many places primary education has been made compulsory? Karnataka, they brought a law that primary school should be only in Kannada. But then what about the non-speaking, Kannada-speaking people? What were the linguistic minorities? Now the Article 30 of the Constitution talks about the linguistic minorities have a right to establish an education institution of their own choice. Therefore, in any area, you can have a linguistic minority. You have a Malayalam medium schools in Tamil Nadu. You have a Tamil medium schools in Kerala. You have a Telugu medium schools in Tamil Nadu. You have a Tamil medium schools in Kerala. That is only a choice. But nevertheless, the language policy continues to be haunting today. That what should be the primary education? Even now, the BJP and the Prime Minister have continuously said that the primary education should be in the local language. When I say local language, I will say mother tongue. Now, if you see the reality, we are set into a larger global arrangement. We have globalization, we have privatization. Therefore, what happens today is that you want to travel all over the world. Now, if you travel all over the world, what kind of work that you decide according to you? One of the main areas where people have migrated are software industries, and then they find English is better. So there is a craze for English medium school. Now, under the Article 45, now made as a fundamental right, every child has a right to learn education from the year 4 to 14, compulsory free universal education. This is a fundamental right today from 1999. Now what really happens today is, the state governments are running state schools and state aided schools where Malayalam is taught. But then there are private people who are starting their own school where English and sometimes Hindi, because they are affiliated to CBSE, therefore three language fund. Whatever the state decides, it doesn't operate, it doesn't bind the private operators. Well, the result was, though you call it as a free primary education, in Tamil Nadu, 42% are learning in private school. Though it's free, but then they don't want to send them to free school. Now the result is that you have a two distinction. Are you going to state school? Are you going to municipal school? Or are you going to some private school? You can see people choosing, even an ordinary worker, an auto rickshaw driver or a transport driver. They want their children to go to English medium school. You ask them. I was a president of a school in Chennai. After my retirement, I was teaching in a school. I thought the base is so weak, we should work only in the school. I was working in a school for 4 years. So my experience was different. Every person who comes to admission, sir, we put them in English school. So we have one Tamil medium as opposed to 5 English medium classes. We tell them, please study here. Everything is free. Books are free. Midday meals are there. Uniforms are given free. Shoes are given free. Every education is free. But they say, no, sir. I think we have difficulty in understanding. No, sir, we have tuition. So it's difficult to control because parents want their children to learn English, thinking that English learning will take you all over the world. This is something, a myth, which we have done. I have studied in Tamil medium. Most of the people in my age group, there was no English medium at all, only language medium. We all studied. It never affected us to learn English. I am standing here speaking to you in English in school. I would not have spoken to you. My language is understanding very ABCD we know, but not write a full sentence. But today we are able to speak because we learn. You continue to learn a language and master the language. It's not a difficult thing. And today all the Indian courts are only speaking English only. Now if you see Article 348, what should be the court language? The court language should be only in English. The official language is Hindi, but the court language is English. Now, when will that end? Article 348(2) says, if the state wants, they can switch over to the local language in addition to the English. So English can never be replaced from court. So there is a strong section that English should be the court language because we are able to get some English decision. Everything is there. Recently, our Chief Justice of India said every judgment will be translated into different 8 languages. In our Chief Justice Manikumar, who was my colleague in Tamil Nadu, he has said all Malayalam translation will come. So everybody is happy that courts are becoming more and more democratic. A litigant will know what is the judgment that he is getting, but very difficult. Today if you open your website, you can see Malayalam judgment. Go and read, you will never understand. Because the legal language is not ordinary man's language. How to translate? You have an artificial intelligence to translate, you have somebody to correct. You will get Malayalam translation of a judgment. But how many of you will understand Malayalam? Very difficult because you speak in a technical language. Therefore, unless you understand that portion of that, switching over to local language is not going to help. It may help to some extent because it isn't a foreign language that you are arguing. Even a small matter in a municipal court, in say through municipal court, if people argue in English, a litigant doesn't know anything about English. So suppose some translations are given, you may be able to get to know what is that you are arguing. But switching over to a mother tongue, switching over to a communication of a language as a means of communication goes in a long way as a democratic process. But when this will complete, we do not know. But we must have a vision. But now what happens is, you have a perverse trend. Like Tamil Nadu, people who are poor, they are willing to pay money and studying in English medium. 42% pay money and then putting their children. Now what happens is, we have 2 different schools. School meant for the poor who can't afford. Schools who can afford to some extent. The schools which is charged fabulously, for example, some schools in Tamil Nadu, LKG section, they charge 2 lakh rupees. Can you believe a child which is 4 years old, studying in a class only for 3 hours, is paying 2 lakh rupees a fee? And then the constitution says all children will be given compulsory free education. So you write something, in practice it is something else. Who decide? Parents decide. Who decide the parent's mind? They were carried away by so many propaganda that if you study in English, you can get a job, you can go abroad. How many people are going abroad? Now this is again a vexed question. A language, for pure love of language, you can learn language. Language is a means of communication. For example, the government has announced we will have medical education in the local language. In Tamil Nadu started a medical education company. Is it possible or not? How to understand a technical words? For a long time, the colleges in Sri Lanka, they teach Tamil as a medical language, as an engineering course also. Like you have so many courses. How to develop a language? Unless you swim in the water, you don't swim. You can't learn by blackboard. But this is how you swim. You will have to do the practical exercise. But somewhere down the line, we'll have to start. Now, 75 years, we have cut off our relationship with British, but we are still handing over to English. English may be a good language, good literature, and then good means of communication, travel around the world. But then, nevertheless, it could be other language also we can learn, but that should be the choice, not a compulsion. So, therefore, when we oppose Hindi, we only oppose the Hindi imposition, not as a language. Today, when I go to North, everybody asks the question, why you are anti-Hindi? We are not anti-Hindi. We want our language also to be there. That is why the Schedule 8 has been amended. There are 22 languages are there and 2 languages don't have a script also. But nevertheless, we believe the aspirations of the people should be reflected in the Constitution. It is reflected in the Constitution, not in the minds of the people. In my school, I used to go to Tamil medium. There are only few boys. There are number of boys and girls, and it's a co-education school. Number of girls and boys in other English medium. They were only saying parents have put them there. Then I was wondering who's studying Tamil medium. I find Nepali boys, Orissa boys, and Telugu boys who have come to work here. And then the children, they want to put them in some school. They put them. So they don't know a single word in Tamil, but they are studying in Tamil out of compulsion. It's a poverty which makes them to study. And they given an option, they go to some other school. Now, this is a very, what is called very negative trend. That we do not have a clear policy on language. We do not know how to promote our education in terms of language. And we can't tell the parents, we cannot tell the people, this is a good language, where you can go. I go and tell, I told my driver that you put in, I studied Tamil. Sir, you are different, sir. I want my child to learn Tamil. So what we did was, we took a statistics from first standard to fifth standard. We found nobody knows alphabet also. Therefore, we brought in some NGOs. From after school hours, we started teaching them in a scientific manner. We do not teach language in a scientific manner. We teach grammar first and then make them disinterested in the language itself. We do not teach the language first and then bring to grammar. People always say you must know the grammar. The moment you start teaching grammar, it will become disincentive. And therefore what happens is, we do not have a scientific teaching of a language. Whereas we have German Institute, we have French Institute, where they teach as a diploma. Within 6 months people can speak in the language. Our own maids, our own cooks, they speak in English. I went to Punjab, one of my friend was an IAS officer. He took one servant maid from Tirunelveli. She doesn't know anything. Now she speaks Hindi also. When he takes the phone, she said, Anji. I said, what, Muniamma? You are speaking Hindi? No, sir, sorry, she said. Now, speaking in a language is the first step, but we do not encourage. Then second is to write with mistakes. How many children today can write flawlessly in Malayalam, in Tamil? We do not encourage. All that we say, even our SMS text, WhatsApp text, we put Malayalam and English. Or write Malayalam and English itself. Instead of our own script, which we do not know how to write, and then we put English. Therefore, all kinds of trends are coming, and we are not able. The state as a responsible institution is not able to understand. There are different trends are coming, and then most of the trends is left to the market forces. If you learn this, you can go there. If you learn this, but you know, there is not very many people who know Chinese. It's not anti-patriotic to know Chinese. In JNU, there is a Chinese department there. Then you have Japanese. There are a lot of career options are there because our own economy, like German. Third, in India, the third most invested country is German. If you learn German, you will be able to get some placement in terms of language. If you know Japanese, you will be able to get some arrangement as a translator. This is all possible. But then we go in a very same stereotype path. This is the path set up by us. Then we go in this path. Even there we are not following. In our generation, nobody studied in English medium because there are no English medium school. Today, if you just drop of a hat, there is a school. Now, how much English that you have learned? That's another question. Who decides your quality? It's just only a fashion, and that's how it continues to go. So, most important thing, the constitution is one thing, but the reality is another. Like any other article, constitution says something about secularism, and then in practice we have something else different. People speak in a different language. People say India belongs to one religion, majority religion. What does the constitution say? So we should have an increasing faith in the constitutional philosophy and start working for a constitutional life. Constitution does not discriminate between religion. Constitution treats every religion as equal respect. Constitution gives a fundamental right to protect our language, but on the contrary, we do the opposite. That is why, as people, I am very happy that you are part of the Malayalam University, and then there are some of you are learning Malayalam at a postgraduate level. I think if you allow your language to die, then nothing remains. The language makes us to be a human being, and the moment you lose out your language, the English ruled us because of English made as a compulsory language. But English is now gone, it's only option. English is no longer there. Why still we are better to English? Because we feel no, we can know that there is no bar from learning any language. But what is important is a compulsion. The compulsion can be by the state. The compulsion can be by your own peer group. No, you learn this, you learn this. But we are also part of your peer group and you don't listen to us. You could carry somewhere else. When I tell my own maid, don't send them to English medium. She is not agreeing at all. She has been made to understand English is a language. This is something, English is after all not a language all over the world. There are bigger languages all over the world. But then we don't think in those lines, and therefore this is a time we start thinking of the constitution. We also start thinking about language. What is the organic relationship between the language and the constitution? And then what is the right that we have to promote it? And if somebody says that you should learn compulsorily Hindi, we oppose. Why is that in the South India? That only Tamil Nadu is fighting. People immediately say Tamil Nadu are chauvinist. All right. Other states are slowly realizing that originally in Delhi when you go, they call you as Madrasi. Madras is the state capital of Tamil Nadu. But Thiruvananthapuram is the capital of Malayali. They don't say Malayali, they say Madrasi. They all understood the entire South India is the same. Now they understand that South India has got 4 different distinct language states. And therefore they say to Gulti or Mallu, now they give many. But nevertheless they don't realize that we continue to speak in a living language which is more than 1,000 years old, much older than Hindi. They don't understand at all how to make them realize. Secondly, we have a literature. We have a very wealthy literature, but we do not think that's our duty to read and understand the literature. Not old literature, even contemporary literature we have. And then very little. In fact, some of the magazines are now having literary festival. I was part of the Mathrubhumi Literary Festival. There is some enthusiasm among the youngsters to come to know more about the language, and it's not enough to know about the language, to master, to understand, and to preserve, and then carry forward to our new generation. Because world are losing out several languages. And if you lose out your own language, there is nothing remains for you. Thank you. Second, it becomes a vehicle of communication. Now nothing is difficult. For example, if you anyone goes to United Nations, there are at least 40 languages recognized. If somebody speaks, you go to Lok Sabha, there are 8 languages are recognized. If you put your headphone, somebody speaks, you can get translation also. It's not as difficult. People used to say one language is easy to communicate. It's not correct at all. Today you can speak in Tamil, you can speak in Malayalam, immediately translation can be there, and there are simultaneous translations are there. First time we had a SFI conference in 1970, the first All India conference in Thiruvananthapuram. From all the 22 states, delegates were trained. But then how to speak, nobody knows, there is no common language. Some of them are so final out. Some of them are speaking in their own language. So it became difficult. What happened was, in Chandrasekhar Stadium, they split the delegates into their language group. The person who can speak their language and translate, he will be standing there. I speak in Tamil. There will be simultaneously in all the entire hall, there will be translation. In this room, the Bengali comrade will translate. Here, Malayali comrade will translate. So nothing is difficult. You can understand. Suppose you go, and you can't even speak. There is a sign language, international sign language. You always clap. If I speak well, you clap. But then a person who can't hear, how does he clap? How does he clap? He can't hear the clap. So what they do like that. That means they are appreciating. First I went to a conference of people who are hearing impact. So when I started speaking, there was somebody translating. So every time the audience started saying this, I didn't understand what they are actually ridiculing. Then they said, in the international sign language, this means appreciating. Because they are visible. Suppose somebody doesn't have vision, you have an audio. Today I find many students when I go, law students, they say, sir, will you give an audio form? They have no time to read also. They put their headphone and then listen to the lesson. So we are also helping them. So language is a communication. An English language is a delight. When I read, I know Malayalam writers, not by knowing Malayalam, translated in Tamil. I know Tagadi, I know Bashir, Vaikam Bashir. I know all their stories. How I can understand a Malayalam film. You can understand a Tamil film. How? It's all because you make an effort to understand. Therefore, first thing important is today, language is a vehicle for communication. And there must be an equal respect for all languages. If Tulu doesn't have a written script, therefore Tulu is unwritten. But our constitution says Tulu is also one of the national languages. We also respect language, number one, because language evolved over the years. It may be 1,000 years, it may be 2,000 years. There are several histories are built around language. Therefore, how to get over language difficulty. That's one. Second is, how to educate the children. Should they learn more number of languages? As they become polyglot. I know 5 languages. I don't understand this at all because a man can learn any language. But can a child understand 3 different languages? People say child can understand, all right. But how do you become enrich yourself? Now somebody talks about complex. Complex is there for our children because we never allow children to question ourselves. Number one. Parents say, don't talk too much, keep quiet. You become all the time talkative. Go to school, master says no, you always talk. So the children who ask questions, you put them down first immediately. So there is no initiative to know. What is important is to allow the children to grow and initiative to know. If you go to some of the American schools, even a 3rd standard child, the teacher has to fill up a 40-page questionnaire. How the child reacts, how the child looks into it, how the child attends to it, how the child writes, how the child understands differently. So the teacher has got a greater job outside the school to know about the child. But we don't have anything. We have a progress report, 80 marks, 90 marks. These are the mark criteria. A person who gets 40 marks can be a better understanding than a person who has got 90 marks. This is something that's wrong with our educational system. Second that is wrong is our own language teaching. You take any European language, you have enough audio, video, you can learn faster. And then they start teaching on a practical level and then go back to grammar. But our language teaching is something century old. You go to the master, then clean the house, then buy something for the master, then he will tell you some sutra, some formula. Then you start learning. It's called Gurukulam. Today it's not Gurukulam. Gurukulam is not possible. Gurukulam is different. Today the method of teaching, the child pedagogy has changed. So the language has to be taught differently. My daughter comes and says, why Tamil is so difficult grammar? I said, why should you bother with grammar? We speak mistaken Tamil. But then when we go to public place, we always think, am I going to make a mistake? Will he misunderstand me? One mistake? We should not misunderstand because the language approach communicates. I can speak half English, half Malayalam. Then I communicate something. I tell a taxi driver, you go to Tirur. Then tell him to Malayalam. That's all. But then understanding and teaching is different. Now we do not have a scientific method of teaching language. We put so much grammar. In my degree days, first 2 years we were learning language only. One local language, English, compulsory. Instead of learning science, 4 papers are learning only in the language, and many times they fail. Today they are slowly changing. Like today they find maths is very difficult, so we can remove maths. Those days they think maths is the most important, and if you fail, you can never get out of the school. Today they are thinking we can dispense with maths. Like that, we can dispense with several things in teaching and language. So, but what is most important? Nobody can tell you how to get over a complex. India must stumble in that. One of the greatest political scientists, he had a stammering problem. Nobody knew that he had a stammering problem. From childhood, he can't speak coherently. But then slowly, he got over it. Slowly. But that it is not full. When he was speaking in a meeting, he used to speak with a great knowledge. What he will do, he has developed a method of speaking. When he says some point, by the time you start thinking, his stammering will be over by the time. They start the second sentence. People who listen to him in a meeting will not know that he is stammering. He was able to get over that. If a person who can't speak coherently can get over it, a person who can speak coherently, why they can't speak better language? If you go to London, there is a park called Hyde Park, where Karl Marx cemetery is also there. They used to put some box called soap box. In the evening you can get up and speak there. People who walk in that park, they listen to you. They want to listen to you, they'll come and sit there. You can speak on any topic. It is called soap box arrangement. You can have a soap box in your campus also. People speak, some 10 people around, then they laugh, then you can speak coherently. In our school days, the DMK politicians used to speak in a flowery Tamil language. So people used to mug and then start saying the same. You go to cinema. Cinemas were taken from drama to cinema. So you have a long dialogue. Today nobody will go and see the film. Those days the dialogue will have 5 minutes. They will have a long monologue. So they used to print a cinema book. We have also brought Jaivik dialogue book. You can get it and read it also. Now those days the dialogue book is for the children to learn in months. You have a visual cinema and later you start mugging Parasakti. 5 minutes Shivaji Ganesan will speak. So we will also speak 5 minutes, mugging speak. So this is something, an individual effort required to speak. Please don't think that you are speaking mistaken language. What is important is communication. Prime Minister Modi can't speak in English properly. Whenever he goes, he speaks in Hindi only and translator is translated. He is ruling a country where there are 1.4 billion people are there. He is a leader. But he doesn't say that I am complex, that I can't speak in English. Whereas Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru speaks in flowery language. He said on 15th August, when he brought out the Union Jack and Indian flag went up, when the whole world sleeps, India will be awake to get her freedom. He can speak just like that because he was English educated. Our early leaders were all in England and they had a poetry language. But that is not the criteria today. Today, a leader of your choice may not have a English knowledge, but they have a knowledge of the people. What is important is you are close to the people. You can speak the people. Now you take Hindi, some 40 crore people are speaking, but there are 40 dialects. All India Radio, you listen to Hindi news, all Sanskrit oriented. But then never, an ordinary peasant in UP will never understand what is that language. But still it is called Hindi. So what is written and what is spoken is different. 40 dialects are there. There are Maithili dialects, there are Bhojpuri dialects, but nobody speaks Sanskrit oriented. Most of the Hindi is Urdu oriented. But then they remove Urdu and then bring in Sanskrit. Nobody understands. So the language purpose is to communicate. You can't bring some dictatorial idea in the language. The language is to communicate. But then they don't allow. I remember once, to tell you, how many people can speak Sanskrit? India's oldest language. Nobody can speak. There are very few people who can speak. And then the All India Radio started a program on Sanskrit. They allowed people to come and speak for 5 minutes. You can speak in Sanskrit. How many people listen to you, we do not know. BBC was on English broadcast. Now so much controversy about BBC documentary. They said you can't see. The moment you say don't see, people will see. In Jawaharlal University, the students said we'll put documentary in the auditorium. When the Vice Chancellor cut the electricity, people bought battery. You can never stop communication. Today the digital media is so powerful, nobody can stop any communication. When the All India Radio started Sanskrit broadcast, we had a leader from Malabar. He came to Tamil Nadu, very popular leader, Chandru, V.P. Chintan, Madake Chintan. He knows Sanskrit also. So he said, I will speak. Then they asked, in All India Radio they have a pre-censorship. Suppose I am asked to speak for 15 minutes, that program organizer will say, sir, please tell the gist of what you are saying. Because they don't want anti-government propaganda in the All India Radio. So he told, I am going to speak on Buddha. I am going to speak materialist philosophy in the Indian context. That it is not only the Hindu philosophy. We have different philosophy where people have spoken in materialist terms, what is called Lokayukta. The Buddha doesn't believe in God worship. He had his own understanding against Vedic religion. So he said, I am going to speak Buddha. They said, no, All India Radio will not allow. Does it mean Sanskrit is the language of God? That nobody can speak anything against other than mantras that we are saying? This is something unheard of. I had a case as a judge in Madras High Court. We had the temple Sanskrit mantra. The government said you can also have Tamil mantra because there are enough Tamil mantras are available. So God can be worshipped in His language. But then they gave the option to the devotee. Do you want Sanskrit mantra or Tamil mantra? When you tell them, then the Purohit will put that mantra. Somebody filed a case. Very shocking. The lawyer who argued said, God knows more of Sanskrit than Tamil. Can you believe all this? If you really believe in creation, then the language is also creation of that God. How one language is better than other language? Can you say Deva Bhasha? Sanskrit is a Deva Bhasha. Other Bhasha are Nicha Bhasha. This is something which always haunts us because a lot of politics comes in. So I asked the lawyer, do you mean to say, if you say, God gave me this in some language or sign language, God will not understand? There is no answer at all. So we have what is called politics which is clogging the language. That some language is superior, some language is inferior. You take Bengali. Bengali is one of the finest language. But then Oriya is older than Bengali. Oriya has got classical status, whereas Bengali has got no classical status. These are all something which is history. Some language thrived because of adaptation. Every year, the English dictionaries publish some new words, some 200 new words. They are not invented. They take your own word and then put it there. Like you take Kattamara, 5 logs are put and sent to the sea for fishing. The Kattamara word is only a Tamil word. Kattu-maram. You tie all the logs. Now Kattu-maram is an English dictionary. You adopt. There are several words from Malayalam or Hindi. Acha is there in the Hindi dictionary. Is there? That's how people adopt a language and that becomes assimilated into some other growing language. Sanskrit never adopted, therefore it died. Whereas Hindi adopted, therefore it's growing. But then every language can grow its own way, and therefore what is most important is we respect language. We don't say, no, Malayalis are like that, Telugus are like that, we are the greatest. No, we are not saying that. At the same time, nobody can denigrate language. In fact, I give you a personal example. I lost my mother at the age of 5. And I had a Malayali boy in my class, in my second standard. He always called his mother as Amma. So in Tamil, Amma means only a goat will shout like that to the mother, Amma. For me it's funny, because as a child we do not know what is other language. We think it's a funny. So I told him, you are calling your mother like a goat. So that boy said, you don't even have an opportunity to call like that. That day I cried. And then what he said is hurt me because I had no mother to call as a mother. Then what is the language? And that day I realized every language we should respect. There is no disrespect. Thank you. How do you reduce human rights violation? Everybody become a human rights defender, therefore you can reduce. You can't watch a human rights violation and then go that way. Therefore, human rights violation, human right is an institutional form, you must have. Every government tries to oppress people. There is no difference at all. The moment there is a power, the power is exercised. the abuse of power results in violation of human rights. And therefore, if you have an opportunity, I have written my biography which is available in Malayalam. It's Siddha Books has published, please read that. For 45 years, as one individual, what you can do in defending the rights of human rights. I have listed what are all the cases that have appeared. You can read, anybody can do this, it's not some miracle. Anybody who is trained in a skill can exercise the skill in favor of people for whom these rights were created. And on the SC/ST question, there are also many human rights violations, which is the saddest part. The SC/STs who constituted 1/5 of the Indian humanity are treated as a different class of people. In fact, once Mahatma Gandhi said, India lives in villages. Then Dr. Ambedkar asked him, Babuji, which village you are talking about? Every village has got 2 units, the village and the colony. Now when we are going to take outdoor shooting for a jaiving, we went to some tribal settlement. We asked some people, where are the tribals? They showed some other place. No roads, no water supply, no electricity, no Aadhaar card, no voting rights, nothing. They live in some other place. So the director of the film said, India lives in 3 villages today. Adivasi settlement, Dalit settlement and the main village. This is something which we have to be shamed. That's why Dr. Ambedkar said, I have introduced this constitution. On 26 November 1949, we celebrate as a constitution day. He said, I have given the judgment, we have given you the constitution. We have got political rights, but we have not got social and economic rights. Until such time we get those rights, these rights will become only a mirage. The sooner we get those rights, India will stand united. Otherwise, India will go into pieces. Therefore, we do not have a social right, we do not have a political right. Though some of us are wealthy, some of us are better segment of the society, we enjoy some rights which they do not have. Yesterday I came in the aircraft, I was wearing a Hawaii slipper. I deliberately came with a Hawaii slipper. Everybody was looking at my feet. Why I was wearing, I put a Facebook post with my photograph with a Hawaii slipper. 2 days before, Prime Minister Modi said, I have a dream that every person who is wearing a Hawaii slipper must have a flight also. They must go in the flight. That is his dream. I asked Mr. Modi, do you know, Mr. Modi, that millions of people in this country don't have any slipper at all. Even if they do, they can't walk in the village with slippers. Therefore, you can make flashy statement, but is it reality? That's why the SC/ST problem is an eternal problem. Until people realize that we are neglecting 20% of the society as awareness, they don't even come into the caste system. We are all Savarna. They are awareness. They are outside the caste. What is the caste? Sandala. Manu talked about Sandala. Outside. And now how do you bridge the gap? When this film came, Lijo Montrose was given award as the best actress award. So some paper in Madras wanted to give her award. They called me to give the award. As I gave the award, there was big applause. Then the organizer said, you can speak 2 minutes, sir. We have got so many other award functions. Take 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, what will you communicate? I immediately thought one thing. If Lijo Montrose comes to your house, you will open your door, you will welcome her, you will put her on the sofa, you will give her hot drink, soft drink, coffee, tea, or any juice, you may offer everything. To Lijo Montrose juice. But she acted the character of Sekei. If Sekei comes, not the front door, will you open the rear door? Will you offer her any of these things? So between the real and the real, there is so much gap in this country. Until it becomes a single, there is no space. That day, the problem of SC/STs will disappear. Till then, it will never disappear. What is the present condition of related with the caste system in Tamil Nadu? Caste system is everywhere, not only in Tamil Nadu. One redeeming feature is last week the RSS boss, Mohan Bhagwat, I don't know how many of you are reading papers, he made a very startling statement. He was speaking in the centenary of Ravidas. Ravidas is a Sufi saint. So they celebrated all over North. Ravidas means everybody knows. He is a Sufi poet. And speaking in that centenary, he said in Marathi that the Pandits have created the caste system. The sooner it disappears, the better for Hindu religion. Hindu religion do not believe in caste. This is a statement made by one of the powerful Hindu gurus. Now you analyze this statement. Now the next day it came, I did not mean Pandit in the sense of a Brahmin. I meant Pandit being intellectual. He made a qualified statement. He didn't want to get angry from the Brahmins. But then he made a statement that it is against the Hindu religion. He made a statement. Now the same debate in Vaikam, when Mahatma Gandhi and the Vaikam Brahmins, there is a debate. There is a 2-hour discussion between them whether untouchability is allowed in the Hindu religion or the untouchables part of the Hindu religion. In the Vaikam street, the Dalits were not allowed. The street, not in the temple. They can't walk in the street. Now there was an agitation that they should be allowed to walk. Gandhi didn't want confrontation, so he came to speak to them. So some of the Nambudris, they were not down. So they had a long discussion, which is also recorded now. Kindly read this. Between the Sanatani and the Pathan who believes in caste system, there is a discussion. He said that the Sanatana religion do not allow this kind of caste system. But the Nambudris did not allow. Gandhi went back, the agitation became intensified. Finally, Tiruvangur Maharaja, through his Diwan, allowed that people can go. Vaikam became a victory against caste system. That's not true everywhere. Everywhere there is a caste system. But then Ambedkar said that Sanatana is not part of Hindu religion. People should not confuse between Hindu religion and Hindu. There are purists. There are purists who say that Hindu religion doesn't allow this. But then how people understand the religion? Who tells an ordinary peasant that the Dalit is not to be removed? He is also part of it. They don't accept. And therefore there is something fundamental wrong with our society. We have not understood this. When Swami Vivekananda came at the beginning of 20th century to Kerala, he said it's a lunatic place. Prandh Pradesh, he said that. Because he found so much casteism in this place. Don't think that Kerala is above all caste. We still have PKs. There is a society to fight against casteism. Casteism is there everywhere, not in one place. How? Last week, the Seattle Municipal Council abolished caste discrimination. How much people are condemning it? How many NRIs are supporting it? In fact, I saw one Facebook posting by an NRI. I wish I go back to India, live under Modi. He doesn't want caste to be abolished. Somebody spoke in Amazon on caste. A Dalit activist was brought in. The Amazon staff said she should not be allowed to speak. We should not bring in differences in India to outside. The British Parliament passed a law against racism. They said casteism is also part of racism. In Johannesburg conference arranged by United Nations, the resolution was passed that casteism and that too untouchability is also a form of racism. The Indian government filed an objection saying you cannot pass this resolution. That means we want to hide from the world that we are not castes. But then we continue to maintain in the form of religion, in the form of marriage, in the form of social practice. A scheduled caste cannot get a house in a non-scheduled caste area, even today, however big he may be. Therefore, this is something we have to understand, not Tamil Nadu. At least Tamil Nadu or any other place for that matter. Some awakening there that we should fight against it. Therefore, we should continue to fight. There is nothing wrong in saying untouchability is abolished in all forms, Article 17. Not abolished. It's theoretically abolished. Practically it is never abolished. Then somebody is asked about reservation, and I think we have to speak long time on this. Therefore, I have very little time to stay here. I will go back. With only one question, I will finish this. Sir, our constitution is under pressure, and the ruling central government is trying to deconstruct it according to the Hindutva agenda. One thing you must know, that unless you give them the right, they will not. When Hitler amended the Weimar Constitution, he brought in a new section. That's why Chancellor is a permanent chancellor. He also did it by parliamentary amendment. You elect your leader. Today a person who is 18 years old, all of you, can vote and elect your leader. And then there is a saying in Sanskrit, Yada Raja Tada Praja. You read it reversely, Yada Praja Tada Raja. Whichever citizen, Raja will be like that. If you vote for a person who doesn't believe in constitution, and then maybe you will also amend the constitution. Therefore, the right is in your hand, not in Modi's hand. Thank you.